Welcome, everybody. I see more and more people joining the room. A warm welcome on this afternoon in Germany, morning and evening in other parts of the world, to our webinar today under the title Sketching the Future of PtX Finance. Our webinar today is the third session of a series of webinars that we have organized jointly with the PtX Lab Lausitz, the Agora Verkehrswende think tank in Germany, and us, the International PtX Hub, during the last 3 weeks. In the slide, you can see that 3 weeks ago, we started by exploring the market barriers and financial risks to PtX. In the second webinar last week, we tried to make it more concrete and looked into the existing mechanisms of financing for PtX. Today, we have the task to look into the future and sketching the opportunities needed for PtX Finance. And with this third webinar, we would also like to bring in more international experience into the topics that we have discussed so far. The discussions were already very rich, and you have the opportunity also to follow up on them in case you haven't made it to the first 2 webinars. They're available on the website of PtX Lab, but also on the website of our PtX community. From the perspective of the International PtX Hub, the third of the organizations focusing this topic on PtX Finance, just let me say some brief words. We understand ourselves as a center of expertise and collaboration, and we focus on PtX particularly in the sectors of shipping and aviation as the hard to abate sectors, as we call them, hard to defossilize sectors. In these fields, as in our role as expertise and collaboration center, we work together with different stakeholders. We give policy advisory, but we also particularly provide trainings on the topics of sustainable shipping and aviation and PtX. But also the topic of finance has become more and more into our interests, which is why I've also developed an add-on training module on this topic, which we will be launching in the next year. So all the discussion comes very handy to provide a lot of input as well on what we want to share in our community later on. Talking about the community, let me address and welcome very warmly, especially the members that are already part of our so-called PtX community. And this goes hand in hand with a warm invite to every one of you who has not yet joined the community. This group of people is a group of enthusiasts. We started among our training alumni, among our trainers, PtX trainers around the world with this community, but we opened it to everyone. And if you feel that it is a good place for you to participate in regular live calls like the one that we have today, but also in asynchronous discussions in online fora, then please join us on the platform. You can find the QR code here, and this will bring you to a registration site of the Atingi Learning Management platform where we host this community. On this community webpage, you will also find the recording of the last webinars and the one today. Talking about recording, just let me remind you of some little rules. You are being filmed right now. If you don't like to appear in the recording, then just take your personal consequences and leave maybe your camera off. The same goes for the microphone, please. I think this is clear. But if you feel you would like to participate and engage actively, you may also switch your camera on all the time. And while you're speaking, maybe later in the Q&A, of course, we also would like to see and engage with you. Let us then see who is going to talk to us today on actually the future of PtX Finance. We have a couple of experts invited, and I'm very curious on what to expect today. We will start with a colleague of mine, Christoph Michel from GIZ, a finance expert who will talk about a finance ecosystem for PtX. Afterwards, we will meet Adeline Duclos from IRENA, and she will be talking about the ETAF platform and how it links actually with initiatives from ICAO, so the International Civil Aviation Organization. After these two inputs, we will go into a more regional, let's say national context, and we will talk to Alvaro Castro. He is project manager for the Financial Service Assistance Platform, which is a project also under the scope of GIZ being implemented in Chile. And he will give us some insights into this instrument that in Chile is trying to boost the ramp up and support projects in the PtX field. Along with Alvaro, we have the pleasure to welcome also Christian Lühr and Augusto Giusti from two Chilean enterprises who participate in the Financial Service Assistance Program. So we will have also a private sector perspective bringing into here into our discussion. And I'm very glad that you all made it here and looking very much forward to what we will be talking about. With no further ado, that was too quick. That were already my takeaways. But let me advise you, it's the final session of our series. So in the end, hopefully, we will have some time to wrap it up all together. How the three sessions link to each other, and I'm looking forward to that. I will make a point now here and give the floor to Christoph. As I said, he's a financial advisor with PtX Hub, but also with our South African project. So since 2022, he has supported GIZ in advising different projects on financial strategies actually for Power2X. Before, he was over 20 years a partner at KPMG and was advising in the financial industry itself. So he can give really a very deep insight into how financial industry could or should react in the difficult or challenging situation that we are in at the beginning of this new PtX economy. Christoph also developed a special methodology regarding this and some training materials. So when I talked about the PtX Finance training that is in our pipeline, this comes out of Christoph Michel's hands. And I warmly invite him on the stage and to share his presentation on a finance ecosystem for PtX. How could the future actually look like, Christoph? I'm very curious. Welcome. I think he might have been kicked out of the meeting. I cannot see him right now. Then
there's no one waiting in the waiting room. So if he isn't here.
So if you don't mind then, Adeline, I know that you are here. Would you be able to step in with your presentation in the second as a first speaker?
Yes, sure, absolutely. No problem.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So while you prepare, let me just give a couple of words so people know who is actually talking to us. Adeline is an associate project finance officer at IRENA. And for the past 5 years, she has been working in this position and been actually instrumental in the design and launch of the Energy Transition Accelerator Financing Platform, so the ETAF platform. She played a pivotal role in mobilizing 14 development finance institutions in this work, multilateral development banks as well, and key climate stakeholders who are now partnering on this platform and securing a collective commitment of $4 billion US. You might be coming back to these numbers in a minute. Yeah, you're leading this partnerships for the ETAF platform right now. And with this, I'm sure you're really driving collaboration and investment in the global energy transition to a great extent. How this connects all to PtX and also to IKEO, we are very curious to hear about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Yes, now I can share my screen. Wonderful. And just put it in. Yes, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try again. Oh, yes, I think. Yes.
Yes, now we can see it.
Okay, so thank you very much. It's great to be here. So as mentioned by Ruth, I will first talk a little bit about what IRENA is doing with the ETAF platform, the Energy Transition Accelerator Financing Platform, and how we just started to work with IKEO with the Finance Hub initiative. So the Energy Transition Accelerator Financing Platform is a multi-stakeholder climate finance platform managed by IRENA with the purpose of accelerating the global energy transition. So how do we do this? We managed to mobilize $4 billion US from 14 partners that I will speak about in a minute. And we want to direct this $4 billion US to the financing of renewable energy projects globally, with a keen focus on developing countries. So our aim with those 4 billion is to finance around 5 gigawatts of renewable generation by 2030. So you may know, just let me step back a little bit, you may know IRENA as the International Renewable Energy Agency. So we are a center knowledge on renewables, and our mandate is to promote the widespread of renewables. So we are not a fund, but we set up this initiative and we managed to mobilize those 14 partners that you see on the screen. So we have very famous names that you may be familiar with, a lot of multi-development bank such as IFC, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. We have the Inter-American Development Bank covering Latin America. And so together they committed a certain amount of capital, as you can see, to and they trusted us with this commitment for IRENA to source and recommend projects to them that they can finance. And of course, those projects are all in renewable energy realm. So we see the ETAF platform as a one-stop shop for project financing on renewables. So thanks to those 14 partners that agreed to work with us, we are able to offer various financing solutions to renewable energy project developers across the globe. So, for example, we have the Abu Dhabi Fund for Development that is focused on providing concessionary public lending. We have a big project developer here in the UAE, Masdar, that is providing equity in renewable energy projects across the globe, very focused on Africa, for example. We also have senior and structured debt on relatively concessional conditions as well. And we have 3 de-risking partners with us, Swiss Re, MIGA, and ISEC, and they provide de-risking insurance products also for projects. So that can also be quite useful in some cases. And finally, we also provide as much as we can, because of course our resources are a bit limited, but as much as we can, we provide technical assistance to project developers. So it can be of different nature, but what we do mostly in-house in IRENA is that we provide advice to project developers that come and submit their projects on our platform. We tell them how the project look like, if there's anything missing, if the feasibility study is not complete. We can also guide them with all the tools that IRENA has to offer, again, as a global knowledge on renewable energy. So with those financial tools, we are hoping to, for the projects to have access to a blending of multiple funding instruments via all of the 14 ETAF partners. And the eligibility criteria for the projects coming to the platform. So we are geographically agnostic. We cover the whole globe. Of course, the project have to contribute to the energy transition, but we are open to all renewable energy technology that has been tried and tested. Because we have this capital ready to be deployed, we are looking at projects that are already relatively advanced in their development stage. So we don't really look at concept ideas. We have a sister initiative that looks at projects that are a bit more early stages. We really encourage projects that are very close to financing to come to our platform. And in terms of project size, we also tend to look at medium to large scale projects. This is simply because of the appetite of our 14 partners. Again, we try to find a balance between serving all of our member countries and all the renewable energy projects, but also finding projects that match what the 14 partners are looking for to deploy this capital that they made available to the projects. So this is the website, the ETAF website, where the project developer can come and submit their projects. You can also find more information about the eligibility criteria, how you can apply, the process. There's a lot of useful information on that website. And just very quickly, the application process is very simple for a project developer. So they come on the ETAF website, they can submit their project proposal, and then our team internally do a first screening and assessment of the project. We provide feedback within 1 month maximum to the project developers to tell them about maybe if there's something missing, or if we feel that the project proposal is already ready for us to be presented to our partners for financial considerations. And then we put in contact the project developer with the partner that manifested interest in the project for financing. So the ETAF platform the call for project was launched almost 2 years ago at COP27. We received so far 82 projects. We assessed all of them. There's just 4 that we're still getting back and forth with the project developer to get further documentation or clarification. We recommended to the partners 25 projects. So this is 25 projects that we felt were ready for financing conversations and negotiations. And out of those 25 projects, you see that most of them, 18, partners express interest in financing them. And so far, 3 projects reach financial close. You can see that technology-wise, we have a bit of all the renewable energy technology covered with, of course, a big share in solar. 35% of the projects submitted are solar projects. And then we also have a slightly stronger presence, let's say, of sub-Saharan African projects. 48% of the projects submitted come from sub-Saharan Africa, but you can see that we still have about 15% from Africa and from all over the globe. So now the ETAF experience with Fininvest. So I would like to begin with the rationale of the ETAF and ICAO collaboration. So ICAO wanted to launch this platform called Finvest Hub. And we're really happy to see that they had heard of the ETAF platform, and they realized that we have the same objective, which is to facilitate a better access to financing for projects. It's just that the IRENA, we focus on all renewables, whereas of course ICAO focus only on sustainable aviation fuel. And then in the envisioned activities that ICAO had in mind for the platform, it was to establish a platform to have this connection between the project developers of sustainable aviation fuel and the investors globally, also having being able to give access to different type of financing solution. So this is also what we do at ETAF. Then also the mandate of ICAO was to foster public-private partnerships. So this is also what we are doing within the ETAF platform. So it became very clear that we could collaborate. And again, at IRENA, we're very excited to be collaborating with ICAO on an industry, as mentioned by Ruth, that is one of the hard to abate industry to decarbonize. So the vision is to create a dedicated channel for SAF projects within the ETAF platform. So the idea so far, and we are still working on the modalities, is for ICAO to carry out the technical assessment of the SAF projects coming in the platform. And then at IRENA, based on our experience and expertise, we can carry out financial and bankability assessments of the projects, so notably looking at the alignment with the Paris Agreement SDG and the financial viability of the project. So the next step is we are currently under discussions with ICAO to finalize the eligibility criteria and the modalities of a collaboration. We are also in the process of identifying pilot projects to run in African countries. And we want to run those pilot projects in next year, in 2025. So I'll just like to finish by saying, please stay tuned on the IRENA and ICAO website. There might be some announcement coming at the IRENA General Assembly taking place in January 2025. And with that, I would like to close and to thank you very much for your attention.
Great. Thank you, Adeline, very much for your spontaneous start of our session and for the insights. There is just one question, and I just, because I think it's important in the beginning now here to address it, maybe you can shortly add up on it. The question from Helmut Kantner was, is the service already explicable for gigawatt hydrogen projects? So the linking point here between the renewable energy projects that you're coming from to the new world that we are actually in. Could you shortly maybe just say it on that, and then we move on?
So if the question is, are we open to green hydrogen projects? Yes, absolutely. Yes. The answer is yes. We are welcoming projects of green hydrogen to be submitted on the platform, and they can have access to financing through the ETAF platform. Absolutely.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Then there are several questions coming up right now, which I would like to save now for our Q&A session in the end. Michele, we will also hear from you later, so I think we will then engage into the discussion more at the end of the presentations. And with this, I hope that Christoph was able to join us in the meantime and that we could hear his presentation right now. Do you have any news for us, Christine and Julia?
Unfortunately, we've lost him again. So he was with us and we wanted to try everything, but now he's not here anymore.
Okay. Unfortunate, but maybe I can ask you to continue and keep trying. Yes. And we move on with our presentations here. with the further speakers, which also makes kind of sense because Adeline presented to us the ETF platform and the concept of matching investors and project developers to bringing the projects up and running. And we are looking into I don't know how similar experience, but some kind of like similar tool in the Chilean context, where we have Alvaro Castro, you are already with us, hopefully, who will be presenting to us the financial service assistance platform as well. And here, yes, we are definitely talking about PtX and hydrogen projects in the Chilean context. And I'm very curious here to see what you can tell us, how this initiative actually started to work on the ramp up of PtX project and facilitating finance. Welcome to the webinar, and we are looking forward to your input.
Oh, thank you, Ruth. Thank you very much for everyone present. We are going to show in some slides what is the current situation of the financial services system. In the next slides, the financial services system is part of the project Team Europe Renewable Hydrogen in Chile. The objective of the project you showed in the slides. The project have a 5 lines. The line E is our line, and we find the financial service assistant one of the initiatives toward the market development company and investor. If you want to know more about the project, so you can follow the link of the slides. So in our letter slides, we can see the current situation of the local market in Chile from developer and investor. No? I showed you a highlight in yellow, the principal point. On the left side on the slide are the relevant point to developing a company. For example, environmental permitting, long processing time create uncertainty and additional costs during the development, the phase. Another point, relevant financial instrument. Early financial leverage with insurance coverage to attract finances. For example, contract for different guarantees, subsidy are necessary to reduce. But in summary, the project say us debt is not enough. Project certification is another project with relevant certification standard aligned with international framework and currently under development and evaluation. So efficiency and viability. This is important, but it's a cost. Grid-connected project finding high transition cost and reliance on external power, while off-grid projects need large investors in renewable energy system. So regulatory framework. So regulations need adaptation for the project industry here in Chile. Focuses on sharing structure to enhance efficiency and cut cost. And finally, in this slide is strategy and relationships. So this is common, no? This is common for the project developer, it's common for the investor. Another title, but it's common. The concept is common. That means project must collaborate with authority, community, and partner to comply with regulation and ensure local acceptance. This is a principal key. So, in other side, this slides, the right, the column is investor, risk assessment. Oh, it's important. Need to clarify the risk associated with environmental permitting at its impact on investment return. This is one of the posts most relevant for the investor talk with us about the project. No? Access to financing, lack financial instrument to mitigate risks and enable long-term investment. So in the consequence, high payback periods, So new instruments which allow investment to be modeled is a non-traditional way, such as debt and equity. probably in this point, this method, we can find a new situation, probably a blended finance, for example. So another investment criteria required to clear sustainability standard and product certification. Return on investment. So evaluate the impact to the high payback period, the project ability to guarantee a stable cash flow. So regulatory confidence. This is point highlight for us, no? Expectation on regulatory stability to ensure the project continuity in the long terms. Y finally, common collaboration relationship, need to transparency, coordination, regulation, stakeholder working together. This is more important. So in our next slides, we can see we can see the graph that you show the current situation of the project, where the highest accumulated cost and the higher levels of the rig is in FIT stage here in Chile. This is the photo is important for us, and the situation is 2024, this year, project development phase, okay? And you can show this state is the most important rigs on the FIT stage. So in the context, the financial service assistant platform seek to support company at the project development. In the following slides, with my colleague Gustavo, we will show what does the financial service assistant. We have been going for 5 months. We will now show the current situation and the progress we have made in the development and implementation of financial service assistant. Of the left side, we can see the main milestone in the financial service assistant. For example, financial service assistant hydrogen project across the entire value chain. We will to build bridge between developer and investor, advice for international expert on renewable hydrogen and derivative project, customize strategy for each project. Each project is not common project, you know. So launch to the financial service assistant to the beginning of this year in January, and the web platform launch in the end to the May this year, 5 months ago. Now, turn the floor over to Gustavo, my colleague, to tell us about the financial service assistant process.
Thank you, Alvaro, for the introduction. Okay, so let's talk about the timeline of financial service assistance. In the first quarter of 2024, we launched the platform, like Alvaro says, present this as a tool to support hydrogen projects and their value chain. And between the first quarter and the second quarter of 2024, we worked on building the database and of the platform, including the websites. So we have in the second quarter a webinar where we invite the projects to join and start the process. Then now we are from the second quarter of 2024 to the first quarter 2025. We are in what we call it a pilot phase. This is when the project entered the platform as submit information and documentation while the bidding process is underway. And finally, from the first quarter to the last quarter of 2025, we're expecting to provide financial advice to help the projects to move to FID stage, because this is the goal of the platform. Okay, so let's talk about how the platform works step by step. Basically, we have 5 stages. The first one is registrations. Registrations is where the projects sign up with the contact and company details. Pretty simple. Then we have the briefing stage. Here we collect the basic information about the project, like what it's about, goals, how much funding they are looking for. Basically, the basic information that we need to conceptualize the project to us to understand it. And then we have the documentation. This is the very key step because we call it initial due diligence. Here we will ask for technical and company documents to confirm that the project is ready to advance in a financial advisory. And after the documentation are approved, we have the financial advisory where where experts will help the projects to create a solid plan to get funding. And finally, we have the financial strategy closure. This is the last step where the plan is finalized and the projects are ready to move forward. And now let's talk about eligibility criteria. First of all, in this platform, we're working with clean, renewable hydrogen energy projects and the tariff value chain, sustainable over the time. We have focus on the private sector. We have the project have to be a revenue generator, that means economic viability. And the last one is the ticket side. We are aiming to projects more than $10 million USD for now. And that about the eligibility criteria. So let's talk about security. We want to talk about security because it's very important to us, because projects give us their trust when they handle us sensitive information. So to keep everything safe, we have 5 different tools: security password, authentication. This protects basic, hacking. We have data encryption. This gives the information safe when it's sharded. We have audit logs too. This track all the activities on the platform. We have JSON web tokens. This ensures that only authorized users can access to the system. So basically, these tools make sure that the platform is safe to everyone to use. So please, Albert, can you join us again and talk about preliminary results and lesson learned, please?
Of course, Gustavo. Thank. In these slides, we can see the status of the project in the development stage they are. So in this slide, here the relevant thing is known to the local context, project and the developer in Chile. This is our context, which is different for the project and the developer in another market. For example, Europe is different. So we can see the different part of the project start, feed, whatever, all the phase to the project. So this is important. The 80% of the project are distributed in the first 3 phases. This is our reality. We can see that here is the main bottlenecks at the concentrate, 80% of the project. So the problem or the bottleneck is data engineering and financial refinement and obtaining key permits and licenses. This is the most important bottlenecks to the project. Now, in the next slide, we can see the project that are in the process in the financial services system. So the principal milestone now is investment to requests, market type, project in progress, project location across the Chile. Chile is a very low country, and is separated the north, center, and south, and annual production to the ammonia and hydrogen, and potential reduction for the CO is very, very, very important. No? So next slide, you can see the Gustavo now show to you as a print for the dashboard that is on the platform website is a dynamic way. Please, Gustavo.
Thank you, Alvaro. So let me tell you about the dashboard. These are tools that we let you track the project status in the real time. We call them dynamic dashboard because you can filter the data to see what is the most relevant to you. Basically, the filter is in the yellow square. I can also tell you that we are also in touch with investors who are looking for promising projects. So the dashboard helps them follow the progress of the projects and decides when to engage. So a little spoiler that I can tell you that right now we are working on a special dashboard and register for investor, so we can make the bridge between the projects and investors. So one of the last slides, I want to tell you about lessons that we learn in this pilot phase that we call. We find 4 big issues. The first one is the early stage project estimation. This is because we have a lot of projects in the very conceptual stage. So we didn't want to close the door on them. So we give them feedback with the highlights to key the points to consider to be objective of financial advisory. We have confusion in the documentation stage because we have some projects that didn't have all the documentation that we asked for. So we give them a format for a justification to basically justify why they don't have the documents so they can move forward. And then we have communication issues. So we projects want to communicate with us. So we open an inbox FSA process where they can submit their questions. And finally, we had the confusion about the focus of FSA platform, because a lot of projects thought that we're gonna give them directly money. So we are not giving money. We are help them to with the strategy get funding. So, Salvador, can you close with the recommendation, please?
Thank you. Of course. Finally, I'm going to show some general recommendations. They are very useful for the project scalability in different terms. We are recommended that the project ensure their strategy for requesting advisory services is scalable. This is important to create an attractive investment strategy for investors. So a review of guideline documentation is basic, but it's important to check. No, respect established communication channels for inquiry about any information, any support to be submitted. In recommended, you use the platform chat. Is all request an email address you can show. So next, my colleague Ruth will introduce two guests that we have. From our point of view, it is very important to know all the present in this webinar what company needs. Their opinion has helped us focus this initiative. As a project, we wanted to invite to participate and to project. Ruth, please.
Yeah, thank you, Alvaro. Thank you, Gustavo, very much for these insights into your platform. And you are actually saying what I was about to mention. I think knowing your platform now, the next logical step is really to invite Augusto, to invite Christian for a short statement. I see Christoph already also joined us. Christoph, let us put your input at the end and now have a quick look in what our Chilean private sector participants have to say regarding the experience with this platform that has just been presented. And maybe we start with Antonio. Antonio Giusti is with us and representing the Green Hydrogen X project, which is a large-scale plant for the production and export of green ammonia, as far as I understood, in the north of Chile. Warm welcome, Augusto. Just a few words, maybe know what your project is about, and in particular, how was the collaboration on the FSA, on the financial services system, and does it target what the challenges really are for you as private sector actors right now in this moment of market entry or development of the market still to happen?
Okay, thank you, Ruth. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Yes. Okay, beautiful. I have a small presentation that I can share. So, okay, are you watching my screen?
Yes, that looks
yes?
great.
Okay.
We are already in the Chilean desert. Go ahead.
Oh, yes, in the middle, actually. So basically, a brief introduction of who we are. The company that is developing this facility in the Atacama Desert it's called Atacama Energy. It's a company basically with a lot of expertise in the wind sector. We have been developing wind for the last 15 years in Chile, and basically the track record that we have is that, can you see, there's a lot of wind developments that are already built and in operation, and we are also into the desalination industry here the mining is basically how we combine, how we finally combine all our skills to develop a gigascale facility, right? Okay, in a nutshell, GHX is based on basically 5, let's say, dimensions that we need to achieve to have a successful project. The first one is we need to develop this facility in a place where it's going to be, I don't like the word easy, but it's not going to be so difficult, right, to develop. So that's why we have chosen the Atacama Desert. The second is we need to be extremely competitive. We understand that the world is moving to hydrogen, and basically we are competing against, let's say, Australia, let's say the Emirates, Saudi Arabia. So if we want to be part of this industry, our projects needs to be extremely competitive. Okay. Third, we are considering a multi-purpose port. I will show you why. We are considering taking water into the desert, and we have considered the way that the shipping industry moves and the maritime routes. Okay, so if we see the world, we are located right in the middle of the Atacama Desert, and you can see basically that we are aiming to export green ammonia right into Asia, Japan, Singapore, Korea, and also we are close to the Panama Canal, so we are willing to have a project that can export cost effective to let's say Germany and the Netherlands. In terms of logistics, we are talking about 20, 25, 27 days of maritime time. So what are we? GHX is a project for green ammonia exploitation that is being developed in 3 stages, 300,000, 800,000, 1.5 million tons per year with an extremely competitive LCOE. I'm sorry, LCOA. Our aim is to go under $700 per ton of green ammonia. And just the final slide is we are located in an area where, you know, Chile is a mining country. We are a major copper export country. So we want to complement this project so we can enable the future exportation of copper concentrate in a 100% green way, right? So in the time and going back to your question, well, we've been working with the FSA platform for, let's say, almost a year. Right now, we've been working with Alvaro very closely, and basically for us, the FSA platform help us in the most important way that we need. I mean, we as developers, we know what we have to develop, but there is one point, because of the size of these projects, that you cannot invest more DevEx on that. I mean, you can go for 5 million, 6 million, until 10 million, and then you need to take the project to a ready-to-build status, to FID. But before that, you need to start speaking with consortium companies that want to take the project and be the off-takers of the ammonia. So FSA platform basically give us the help to boost our projects from, let's say, from the feasibility stage to the ready-to-build, which is exactly the part of the equation that we need support. I think that's pretty much very quick summary.
Yeah, very quick, but very much to the point. Thank you for this contribution. I think it really connects the concept with the practice in a very nice way. And before we go back to a more conceptual level with Christoph, I would also like to invite Christian Lühr from Mejillones Ammonia Energy, another project who has participated in the FSA, and also give him a short possibility to present what you are doing and how you envision the action of such a tool like this matching platform for the success of the industry. Welcome.
Thank you, Ruth. And absolutely. Let me begin by giving you a brief summary of an overview of our project as well. We are a MAE and we have this Volta project. Volta is a green hydrogen ammonia project. As I see, it's very similar to what Augusto just presented, also their projects, and we are also neighbors. And this project is worth about $1.5 billion of investments in the first phase, with the second phase going up to $2.5 billion. The first phase is half the total capacity, and we consider 400 megawatt of electrolyzer capacity, where the final product after the Haber-Bosch process is green ammonia. And we expect to produce also 300,000 tons of green ammonia per year in the first phase. The second phase we expect to double that capacity. As I mentioned, this project is located in the north of Chile and Antofagasta region and very nearby the Mejillones city. And this the location, the selection of the location is very important for us and for this kind of green hydrogen projects for several reasons and for several benefits in this case. In our case, we have already access of land. We have already a concession of more than 900 hectares from the national authority. We have excellent existing infrastructure, which is very important for this project. And we have already access to industrial ports already in operation, only 2 kilometers away from the chemical plant, as you can see in the background picture behind me. And we have access to water already, water very much needed for the electrolysis process. And we are about to sign already a contract to use gray water from the city, which is currently used just discharged into the bay, and we're using this water, treat this water and use it for the electrolysis process, which is already a very good environmental benefit of this project. We have train systems already in place to materials if needed. We have access to the national energy grid with a main substation just nearby, just 9 kilometers away. And also, as Augusto mentioned, this location at the Atacama Desert is very strategic because it has one of the highest solar radiation levels of the world. So it makes very much sense to support the energy needs of the project by a solar power plant, which in our case is we are considering the construction of a 600 megawatt solar power plant only 9 kilometers away from the chemical plant. And we are also expecting to complement this around supply of energy with a system of batteries also in order to supply more energy during the nighttime. This is the main overview of the process, and where we are in the developing stage of this process is that we already submitted at the beginning of this year already the environmental study. We're positioning ourselves as one of the early movers of the green hydrogen industry in Chile. We expect to have the environmental approval by the end of next year and close FID sure after that during 2026 probably. So we are one of the only 3 projects under environmental evaluation right now, and we expect to be maybe the first or one of the first utility scale green hydrogen projects in operation with COD around 2028 or 2029. And regarding our experience with the FSA, the Financial Service Assistant, I would like to start saying that we think that this platform is, of course, a very useful tool and an excellent initiative, much needed for these kind of projects in the industry right now. As you know, green hydrogen project has several challenges to become a reality in the short term, whether it's due to environmental issues, regulatory or certification gaps, energy supply costs, and so forth. But for sure, the financing of this project is one of the main ones. The investment needed for these projects is huge. In the developing stage, we already have to spend millions of dollars with no certainty about the future. So making this matchmaking with any financial institutions or interested investors are for sure a much needed measure and help for these kind of projects. So we've had a good experience so far with this platform. We already uploaded a first set of documentations, and we are preparing to update and upload a second set of documentation to the platform. And we have high expectations of the performance of this platform, and we expect that it does its part and play a very important role at matching the gaps and matching the developers with the interested investors and financial institutions. We're looking forward to see that happening in the short term.
Perfect.
That's the main overview. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Christian, also for giving us this second insight. I think very, very interesting. I have a couple of questions, and maybe the audience has as well. I will save them until the end, when I hopefully will have still a couple of minutes to discuss more. But now, as we have proceeded a little bit in time, I would like to give the floor now to Christoph Michel, my colleague from GIZ, who has finally joined us, hopefully, still is with us. Yes, hi, Christoph. Very good that you made it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And yeah, we have started now to look into very concrete measures, like the matching platforms, pretty much in detail. I believe with your input, we are zooming out a little bit again. The title that we had talked about before was an ecosystem of PtX finance, because I think it's a very diverse landscape that we're actually envisioning when we are looking into PtX finance. And such a matching platform might be one tool of many that can work in such an environment. I'm very curious to your presentation and how you would actually put this all into a picture. Welcome, and I'm glad you made it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you see the presentation? That's my first question.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, then there's something wrong here. It's going to show.
Now we can see a black box still, but
currently it's completely stuck. Oh. Okay. So
if you like, I can share for you as well.
No, just hang on. Can you see something?
Yes, now it looks perfect.
Well, I mean, yeah, sorry for the inconvenience, but I had some technical issues. I had to run down my PC and anyway. So yeah, thanks very much for the invitation. Quite interesting. Yeah, my presentation had to come at the beginning, which makes sense, but nevertheless, it might be also quite interesting. I would like to shed a little bit a different perspective. So I don't have to offer a product or advisory thing. It's more thinking about how could in the future funding for all these projects look like. Yeah, if you look at the amount of money needed, amount of subsidies for a few selected single projects that might work, that you put in, let's say, one by one subsidies, but going forward, that might become more and more tricky. Before we go into that details, the question, so there's a lot of money out there, that's always said, but the question is, does this money come with the right risk appetite? So if you look, and you don't have to look at all the lines, I will speed a little bit up. You just focus on the red line, meaning if you look at the project development, you see there's a development phase, the construction phase, and the revenue phase. And in the early beginning, the risk is very high. So the question is, who along that development of a project, who might be, let's say, the relevant investors coming in. So if you, let's say, very roughly cluster it into 3 different type of risk levels, as I indicated here, you might see, here we go. Let's say for the highest risk, what you only see is kind of private equity funds, strategic equity investors, and maybe DFIs, but only DFIs who are accepting feasibility risk. Because in the very beginning, let's say feasibility risk is the highest risk you might see in developing this type of projects. So, and even DFIs are not necessarily willing to take feasibility risks. So in this early stage, it's quite hard to get money. What you also see is philanthropic money, and of course, different type of grants. In the construction phase, let's say if it comes, you have done your planning, you are actually ready to go, then let's say the universe of potential investors broadens a little bit. So there are then selected financial institutions like banks, specialized asset manager, and selected insurance companies coming in, and DFIs, if especially the business goes, holds at least for 10 years. 10 years, therefore, because if to talk about DFIs, I will say, okay, there are certain mechanisms implemented like contract for difference, like offered from the German side, where you get a guaranteed offtake for 10 years. That is sometimes sufficient from a DFI perspective to support certain type of projects. And if you go into the revenue phase, then let's say the spectrum broadens even further. And if you go in the late stage, you might get even money directly from the market. You can go into the bond market as an example, but this is very, very in the distance. So if you now look how a project is developed, it has certain stages. I really don't go through all the stages. There's a concept stage, which is actually free of charge. It's something, someone sitting there thinking about it and has a good idea. And after he has done thorough thoughts, he has come to a decision point and enter into the pre-feasibility if he thinks that his idea has a good point. That might be the first point, let's say, in a development of a project where you actually need money. And to be honest, at this point in time, you just have a good idea. So if you try to raise money, it's very difficult. It's kind of a needle in a haystack. What you're looking for is strategic equity, someone who's joining in because strategically it fits to them. You might get grants, and you need money, especially for working capital. If you go further down, you might come to a decision saying, okay, pre-feasibility has been done successfully. You go into feasibility. That might be the next point. We need money. That will be from the overall cost to do all the front-end engineering and go to final investment decision, another 20% of the overall capital need you might have. It's easier, I wouldn't say easy, but it's easier to get money in that stage. as you have a lot more robust information and robust strategy to show off, to get additional equity, grants, and working capital to continue until you have, let's say, reached the final investment decision, and you get your debt and you get the rest of the money to do, let's say, the engineering. Just to make sure, if we talk about a project needs money, it's not one bulk sum, it's along the lines of development that needs very specific money and for a specific service, and also very specific investors jumping in here. Yeah, different situation if you are part of a bigger company who has a big balance sheet, so they can, let's say, cover the first step with a balance sheet. You don't need money from external stuff. Okay, this is just, give you a bit more an overview at what point in time money is needed, what size and what type of money actually. So if you look, so now we come to the idea. So how going forward? It's not for today and will not build up within a few seconds. If you look in the market and you look at the DFIs, for example, they have quite a lot of pockets of money, but all these pockets come with very specific conditions, and it comes in small pockets. So usually what is really needed that you, let's say, DFIs come together and try to bundle their pockets of money. The same is true also for the banking industry to come in. So especially if you change a little bit the view and think about not on single project, move on to a more portfolio related approach. You say you might have, let's say in Chile, you might have, as a practical example, 4 projects, just making up something. And instead of trying to finance each and single individual projects, you can also say, okay, what we think about, can we bundle it? Can we, let's say, the capital demand for each of that project in all the stages there might be in, can that be kind of bundled, and can that be done in a slightly different way? And the idea here is based on what we have seen a few years ago on asset-backed security. You try to generate a project-backed security. So that would, let's say, you have certain layers in your project backed security, and at the very bottom, to cover the extraordinary risk usually associated with green hydrogen project, you come with a guarantee. Yeah. So this is much more attractive from a government perspective to come with guarantees, let's say, to cover first losses. And if you do it on a portfolio, you have the advantage that you have also diversification in your portfolio. You might choose more than 4 different green hydrogen projects, but in this example, I stick it just to 4. And that even makes it much easier if it comes to the equity position. They're not started at the very bottom. They're started at a slightly less risky area. So it's much easier to find equity people coming in, especially if that's managed by a professional asset manager. So that could be an instrument going forward, which really would help, let's say, getting all that money together. And a little bit further down the road, this project-backed security can raise money directly from the capital market. So you broaden, let's say, the investor scale up to a private person if they want. And for everybody in this structure, there's a certain element. People who don't want to have a huge risk, like insurance companies, for example, they would all, let's say, more focus on the senior debt, who are a bit more risk. They go for the mezzanine, and who are really, let's say, into that risk with higher return is on the equity side. And the rest is, let's say, buffered by guarantees and grants. Guarantees attractive because on the balance sheet of a country, it has a less negative impact as if they would give grants or would give, let's say, actual money into a project. So this picture looks very easy. In actual fact, it's a bit more complicated to construct it. But going forward, it might be a smart way of raising this huge amount of capital we actually need to get the energy transition financed at the end of the day. Now that's about it, what I would like to say. So the advantages, as I said, is diversification of risk. You can cluster the risk as well. So for it, let's say, customized for each individual investor's risk appetite. As I said, adjustable to market risk appetite. Guarantees are a nice instrument as it's easier to account for. And at a later stage, you got access to the capital market. So this is an example here from South Africa, where I'm located in. It's a certain province. They have certain subsidized areas where they focus on producing hydrogen and hydrogen derivatives. And from a province perspective, that's a quite interesting instrument, not to focus on each individual project, just to try to make it attractive, let's say, for more portfolio approach in terms of a project-backed security. It doesn't exist in the market as it is now, so it's really something looking forward, but I think it could be a very helpful instrument to, let's say, get that capital together, which is needed to finance all the projects. That's all from my side, very quick and smart. So I just tried to make a bit time up, but this is the key message I would like to send. Any question, happy to come in. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Christoph, very much for the presentation. I think very inspiring as well. We have some time left. I'm happy to see this, to address some questions that have already been posed in the chat, and we will start addressing them. So I warmly welcome the other speakers, panelists as well. We also have questions for our project developers from Chile. But I see Adeline in the first place, and actually there was also still a question, or let's say a comment to what you had presented in the very beginning for ETAF. There was Romanus Casino actually referring back to the question that we had already discussed, that there are that you said that you are open to green hydrogen projects. They could be submitted to ETAF as well. But he's remarking that most of the green hydrogen projects are still in the development stages. So how would you, with the platform, deal with the different stages that projects might be in? How could you respond to that?
Yes, sure. Thank you very much, Ruth. So yeah, as mentioned, of course, we look at projects that are relatively advanced in their development, but that doesn't mean that they need to be ready for financing. And of course, it also depends on the technology. What we require as a minimum in terms of readiness is to have a full feasibility study. So we're trying to look, and again, we will look at if it's a green hydrogen project. Of course, we will be more understanding in how advanced the project is, or the barriers that we are aware of, where we know that it's still in its early development stages. We also know that there are some countries where it's more advanced. It's easier to develop a green hydrogen project and will go faster. Whereas, for example, in other countries, we know it's a bit more challenging. But again, it doesn't mean that we will reject the project at all. We actually don't reject projects. We look at them. We provide feedback. And as mentioned, we always try to give advice and work with the project developer to help them at least move forward in their project development. So anything we can help with, and again, green hydrogen is eligible, and so that means that of course we will look at it, and they can benefit from the platform.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for this answer. The next question would be for Alvaro again regarding the platform. I think you already commented in the chat regarding the nature of the platform and that actually it doesn't provide the money. But here the question is from Helmut Kantner. Is it still possible to apply in the financing platform in Chile? Is this still open for projects that have not yet submitted?
Yes, Ruth, of course. Thank you for your question. About the two questions, yeah, it's possible to apply the project during the next year. October is the end to the project, but it's logical. But it's very convenient to early beginning in the financial service assistant. So I take a remark in my answer about the question. Remember, the financial service assistant does not provide the financing, but advice to the project on the best way in order to achieve the better strategy, financial strategy for sitting in front to the investor and helpful to bring the financial. No, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you for clarifying, Alvaro. And there was another question in the chat by Frank Eibisch, and this was addressed to Christian Lühr. Christian, are you still with us as well? The question here is on your project. How do you secure the business case, actually? Do you have long-term offtake contracts? What is the difference in price in regards to gray ammonia? And for how long are the prices fixed? So some interest in some more details actually on your project. Are you able to share?
Yeah, a lot of questions there. Well, the business case that's a big question because it's not secure at all. We are still seeing gaps. As I mentioned, we have gaps in the financing stage that we're talking about here in the seminar. We have gaps at securing the off-taker for these kind of projects, and we do not have already an off-take contract yet. We are, of course, talking with the different companies, different possibilities of off-takers, either abroad. It could be off-takers to export ammonia to Europe or also Asia. But then we find another problem, which is the certification problem. And the certification rules applicable to green ammonia from Chile is not totally clear regarding the zoning criteria that they will consider. How would be the amount of contamination from the grid, the emissions in the energy supplied from the grid, for example, is not also completely clear. So we are also exploring other possibilities of takers in the local market also. We have a lot of, green ammonia. It can be used as a fertilizers, can be used in industrial process, can be used as part of the explosive industry. As an important material there. So we are also having conversations with different industries and also local possibilities for off-takers. So that's already a process under construction. It's in progress. We don't have that already settled. And the other question is the difference in price. Well, I'm not sure if I have the latest, the price trend are always changing and depends on the contracts specifically, but I think that the gray ammonia could be half the price of green ammonia. But that raises another question. Is because gray ammonia and gray products are not incorporating the contamination part of that gray component. It's not priced properly because it should include a green tax, for example, that would make it more comparable to the green alternative. So regarding that, we still see this gap, but there is where maybe government initiatives could improve the commercialization of the green products. If they put initiatives or incentives for the companies that consume these products, these gray products, in order to make it more attractive to use the green alternative. So we are dealing with these issues and it's still work in progress.
Thank you very much for this answer. We have a new question in the chat, and this is from Michele Daput, and I'm very happy that you're addressing something again, because I remember there were a lot of questions in the beginning already that you had mentioned in the chat. So the question now is for Christoph, actually, Christoph Michel. What would be the minimal practical phase to be in order to be able to successfully obtain capital for the next phase? Pre-feasibility finished, feasibility, feed. Would you have a comment on this, Christoph?
Yeah, I can try to understand the question precisely. So if it's referred to the, let's say, how long does the whole process takes going from concept to, let's say, feed and final investment decision. It's quite hard to say. What I see is more like 3 to 5 years. Yeah, that depends also on the project, on the product you have in mind. That depends, of course, on the environment you work in. Yeah, for example, if you plan something and then there are some disputes with the community that do not agree to that you do this type of things in this area, or you have to wait for a certain type of concessions, or you need permits to do certain type. This takes all time up, which is not necessarily in your hands, right? So, and that very much depends on the country you work in, whether the country or the province or the area you work in is very much prepared for this type of activities, and whether it's very much supported. I just reading now, maybe, I mean, at what point it is possible to look for funds, not the timing involved. Okay. Yeah, let's say if you remember this little line I draw, so you have let's start with, let's say, conceptual phase where you just think about it, what makes sense, and come to conclusion. You don't need any money for that. As soon as you decide to go into pre-feasibility, that's the moment where you need money, and where you had, let's say, disclose, let's say, or not have a convincing storyline. Yeah? I call it really storyline because it's not much information you can provide, robust information. It's more storyline you can provide, which is then hopefully attractive to some kind of investor who buys into your story to go for the next step to do, let's say, the pre-feasibility. Again, that needs about 1 to 2% of your overall capital needs for your whole project. Rule of thumb, it's not very precise, but gives you an idea how much you need. And I think you will get the money in little tiny brackets. And for each bracket, you have to restart fighting to get that money. Yeah? So unless you find in a very early stage, if you enter pre-feasibility, a strategic equity partner, let's say a big company who has a certain interest in your activities because it fits into their overall plan, and this strategic equity partner is a big balance sheet. That helps you then much easier to progress in your step. Yeah, does it roughly answer the question from the point of possible? Yeah, let's say the struggle for money, it's an ongoing stuff. So that's no specific time you get your money and then you go. It's just an ongoing struggle. And as it looks now, as we do not have, let's say, a compact environment, you have to look for different sources to get money, to get a pre-feasibility study done. You go to GIZ and maybe they have some funds. They do the pre-feasibility study for you, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so that's it's a really step-by-step.
Great. Yeah, thank you for your answer and your reflection. With this, I don't see any further questions right now in the chat, and I would like to take the time, just a couple of minutes to reflect shortly on our series as a whole. But be advised that if there are more questions popping up, that you can also post them in our community room, for example, that I had invited you previously to. If they pop up right now, we can also try to take the questions from here and answer them there in the community. So we're after a very exciting, I think, a very exciting third session of a webinar that we started 3 weeks ago. And I would like to thank everybody who has contributed, our partners from PtX Lab and Agora Verkehrswende, and take just a short reflection with you what we have seen. And if you haven't attended the webinars, maybe this short summary also invites you to go back to the recordings and deep dive into the topic even more. So when we started 2 weeks ago, we were assessing actually in the first place what market barriers and financial risks are there actually to PtX. What we found was that obviously there are very different market barriers on a technological, regulatory, and financial level. But I think what I heard was that above all, regulatory barriers and uncertainties are really a key challenge for most projects. And if you have unclear requirements or unclear energy prices and so on, these could actually influence the transformation, particular for ammonia. In the first session, we talked a lot about ammonia significantly. What was mentioned by our speakers here in the first session was regarding regulation, fewer but more targeted regulation would be a good move. Uniform and transparent standards is what can actually move the market forward, and energy security and stable long-term framework conditions. From the example from AM Greenco, the Indian ammonia plant, I think what was very clear as a takeaway from a project developer perspective was that the RED II RFNBO compliance that they could get certified and their industrial partnerships for electrolyzer usage and so on, those were actually the key levers for the company to get offtake agreements and on their way to FID, which they had announced in early August. If this attracts your attention and you want to go back to it, a warm welcome. Last week, then we had our second session organized by Agora Verkehrswende, and we looked into existing mechanisms for financing PtX. What were our main takeaways, or from my perspective? Generally, greater public support is important, let's say, to ensure long-term cash flow stability. For many projects, there are actually tailored financial solutions available to mitigate risk profiles. So this is something that I think we have heard in various occasions, that it is a from case to case kind of situation and solution that needs to be found, as we have not an established market, not an established economy working for one-fits-all solutions. We had a look into the double auction mechanisms in the example of H2 Global and PTL Caro for the German context, which gives subsidy and support for first price determinations, but it was evident as well that those kind of instruments need to develop further. Then different instruments can actually target PtX projects, but also the policy support. So World Bank here was presenting several different instruments that they actually offer, which are really not only for project development itself targeted, but also for the policy support and more the regulatory challenges that need financial support as well to be developed further on. And overall, it was clear that a combination of approaches is needed. Now we are moving on, and I had reflected on some takeaways from today's session that would wrap up actually our event. And I thought, and maybe you agree with me, that this still fits what we have heard today, that public finance must become available now, particularly for initial phase, up to FID, could be a measure that gives security in the very initial phase. The facilitation and matchmaking tool between investor banks and developers is crucial in this early phase of the market. We have heard this from the practical perspective several times. And I'm very curious really what ITAF and ICAO with the Finvest Hub are going to explore further on here for the particular aviation sector and the PtX fuels in this regard. I think we can build up on the established global partners and the tools as Adeline's experience, I think, could show to us. And what I would still add now from the last presentation from Christoph is that if we rethink the financing of PtX, a bundling and a pooling of several large-scale projects could be actually a way to think finance in a different perspective and also attract more investors, get governmental guarantees and equity. So far, my takeaways. I hope you agree with them. I warmly welcome actually everyone to discuss them with us. And with this, I would like to close our webinar again with a QR code that leads us to our community platform and with a little outlook. In 2 weeks from today, we will have another webinar offering by International PtX Hub. We call it the PtX Community End of Year Call. And in this particular call, we would like to go into our partner countries and see how PtX has developed there. We will have insights from our members in Morocco, Uruguay, and Ethiopia. And in the second part, we will also get interactive in breakout groups and discuss with you what your outlooks and expectations are for the next year. And we would love to stay in discussion and in the loop with all of you and welcome you to join the community in this regard. Once more, thanks to Christine and Julia from PtX Lab for all the organizational support here in this webinar series, for Balthasar and Ulf and Leon from PtX Lab and Agora Verkehrswende for the fruitful discussions to combine this program. I hope we could deliver good content for you, and we will be looking forward to your feedbacks on it and further questions that we can address with further events. All the best, happy afternoon, evening, and day to everybody, and see you soon.